Good morning, everyone. We're here today for the Village of Airmont for the Community Design Review Committee meeting, Tuesday, November 14th at 11:03. First application is Town Building at 233 Route 59, a proposed office building for a proposed preliminary site plan. I believe we have the applicants, engineer Rachel Baris and attorney Paul Baumann.
Morning, everybody.
Morning.
Morning.
So
Morning.
the most recent iteration of this plan for this property, you know, it presented some challenges because it's a difficult lot right on 59, very irregularly shaped. So there is an easement on the property to the west for ingress and egress, and I think I provided that to the village. We're going to access that easement to gain the circulation that we need. And we're, here to get your comments and see your feelings on this most recent plan.
All right.
Go ahead, John.
I did a review of the latest plan. So under the planning portion, we did get the long form EAF, and it does indicate the potential presence of surface water and or wetlands. So I don't know if there is any or not, but if there are, we're asking to please show them, or if there's not, provide a note on the plan that there are no wetlands. So we do need DOT review. I know the last plan was kind of conceptual. I think the plans are much more detailed now, so we're going to need their comments. Along with that, the traffic impact study is going to have to be prepared. I think in your response you indicated that's ongoing. So basically comments 4, 5, and 7 talk about the waiver that's required, the variances that are going to be needed. And we will need GML 239 because of the proximity of the state highway. So under the so we did get I believe the deed for the adjoining lot that's being used for ingress and egress. So I'm asking that under comment 3 that Chris or Rob confirm that there is the legal right to actually construct on that. I don't know if they have an answer today or whether they need to look at it, but I just want to make sure that I thought it said on the map that it's in favor of the village. I don't know if it's in favor of the existing property owner, but I will leave that to the attorney to decide. Go ahead.
I have not had a chance to take a look at it.
Right. So comment 1 of the engineering, I did see the engineer's report. I did go through it. It does verify that there's no increase, a net zero increase. There's a number of underground chambers designed to detain the water so that it brings it back to pre-development levels. I noticed you did the 1, 2, 5, 10, 25, 50, 100. The 110 and 100 for the future is all we need. If it works for the 110 and 100, it always works for the 5, 10, the 25, and the 50. So you can save yourself some paperwork. If you want to do 9 different evaluations, you can, but the 110 and the 100 are the most important. And a comment to provide infiltration testing to verify that the soils will work. I believe there's an error on the outlet structure drainage. Looks like it's showing it with an invert that's like 30 feet higher, if I'm not mistaken. We need some handicap parking. I asked to consider some additional buffer landscaping. I think it's well buffered to maybe to the west, but to the east, I think it could use a little more. And
just so you know, the east is the ambulance corps building.
The east is the ambulance corps building. Okay.
Yeah. So the landscaping, I think it's like we were more concerned about the other sides than the ambulance corps.
All right. So it's basically 2 commercial pieces next to each other. So that being the case, I guess there's really not a need for additional buffer landscaping. But should the owners of the of this facility want to have a little buffering from ambulances running in and out all day. It's still, I think, a good thing to consider. And DOT approval and review. And I have just some relatively minor erosion and sediment control comments on comment number 9. So I think from my review, the big thing is the traffic study and, you know, the DOT access.
Okay, there is a letter from Tolman Fire Department dated October 28th. The maneuverability analysis was submitted. They're talking about sprinklers, including the first floor garage area, a dry system. And then when the final drawings are prepared, the location of the FDC should be shown. And that's really basically their comments. Lou, do you have anything?
No.
So what do you recommend as the next steps?
Is this the second CDRC for this or the first?
This
It's
is
the
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 second,
third.
It's the second, but it's the first with this new concept.
right? The original was like very conceptual.
So
I
I
will
I think what we'd like to do is maybe go to an informal before the planning board. But I know you have a very full agenda.
I was
gotta
gonna
get this-
say it's gonna have to be January, Paul,
Yeah.
because I already have 8, because you adjourned 2 from next Monday. I don't even know if we're gonna get to all 8 of those on November 20th. So that might have to carry over to December, and I already have 5 applications for December. So I think it would, if you do the workshop, in my opinion, I mean, I could try for December, but I highly doubt we'll get to it.
Okay.
I mean, that's up to you.
Well,
The problem is
I-
these constant adjournments,
yeah, no, I
the
understand.
placeholder, and then it's moving everything to the next meeting.
I got it. I know it's difficult. Obviously, I don't know. Rachel, do you know the status of the traffic study?
I was just gonna ask you that. Thank you.
I don't know. I'm not sure. We're gonna have to find out what's going on with that.
Who's doing the traffic study?
It looks
I
like
thought it was
Alan-
Colliers.
I would think it was because Colliers is doing the one that's like
Calman?
Yes.
Yeah, and I was
the
gonna say,
intersection next to it, so.
yeah, I was gonna say, please ensure that it includes that project and the other project that was previously approved. The one at 10 South Debon and the one at 14 South Debon, based on the recent letter we got from the DOT, all of that's gonna impact.
Yes, Collier is working on it and I'll follow up with them on timing.
Okay. Oh, thank you, Coleman. Hi.
Obviously, we want to get the traffic impact study in before you circulate this to the DOT. The question is it ready to be maybe sent out to all the other agencies, or do you want to wait for the traffic study?
I think that has to be part of it. I mean, for them to, the DOT is gonna want to see that.
The DOT for sure is going to want to see it. Yeah.
And I think Rockland County Planning is gonna want to see that. They always ask me for the
Yeah.
SWIFT, the traffic studies. They want to see, they want everything. And I will say most of Airmont's applications are now in front of the Rockland Planning Board because of the number of applications and the size of our applications. So they're asking me for everything, and I'm sending them digitally and hard copy for their Rockland Federation meetings.
Okay.
So I think
So-
you need to have that to do a full submission.
You know,
So
you
I-
know how far out you are from completing the traffic study? Is it days away, weeks away, months away? Because if it's gonna be complete relatively soon, we might be able to consider maybe putting it on a workshop just to establish intent to be lead agency and do a you know, a circulation. So that wouldn't take up a lot of time on the agenda, but it would allow us to forward everything to all the agencies involved. So I don't know where you are with it though.
Kalman, do you know when Ron was almost, was this the one that he thought, well, I know the other, there was another one that was like later this week, was that? But I don't remember which one that one was. It was.
Yeah, he was supposed to be done at the end of October, so I'm assuming it's gonna be any day now. I'm following up with him as we speak,
Okay,
and I hope to have an answer shortly. And Suzanne, I can let you know.
Okay.
All right, so why don't we handle it this way? Why don't we find out what the story is with the status of the traffic study? And then Suzanne, we can get back to you and see if there's any room on that 12/20 for an informal discussion to start the secret process. We'll go on there. Otherwise, we'll go into January.
Okay.
So let's figure out where this is, and then I'll get back to you within the next
No,
week or so.
that's fair enough.
Okay. And Chris, if you could review that, you or Rob review that easement issue, so we can see that that's behind us. And if you have any problems, just appreciate if you reach out to me and let me know.
Absolutely, will do.
Okay.
Just so you know, Paul, the planning board changed the submission dates. They want it now 45 days.
Yeah.
So we're technically, I think, past or close, if it's this week for the January meeting. I'm looking for it to pull it out.
I thought that was
but
maybe for a
we're
formal
past.
application so that you had time to send out all the
Well, yeah, because they want the comments for the workshops. That's one of the reasons why the chairman asked me to change it.
oh yeah,
They don't
even
wanna
for the
wait till the
informals,
last
he wants to have all the comments back.
He
Yeah.
would like, if possible.
Yeah.
But let's see what happens with the traffic study, and from there we'll make a determination.
Okay, that sounds
Okay.
fair.
All right.
I mean, I assume you could always come back to CDRC too if you're going to be in February, just if you want to see us again before the planning board.
Well, we have your comments. So unless anything changes, I'd kind of like to get the feedback from the planning board, see if they have any issues.
Makes sense.
So, all right, let's find out the status of that traffic report, and we'll be back in touch with Suzanne, and we'll figure out
Okay.
where we're gonna go.
Amazing.
and do you think that, Chris, that you could review the deed for the entrance to make sure that you're comfortable with what was provided prior to that time also?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's
I mean, I
fine.
know Paul and I read through it, but just to have from your side as well.
Did you send that deed directly to me? You may have, and I have just a ton of emails. And if you haven't, Paul, would you mind sending it directly to me and Rob?
If I have it, I can resend. I think he sent it to all of us, but I could re-forward it. Greg.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Suzanne.
Sure, no problem. I
Thank
believe
you.
it's in the file.
Okay, thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Have a
Thank you,
great day, Paul.
Bye.
Thank you, Rachel.
Bye.
Thank you.
Okay, our next application is 282 Route 59 LLC. For the project located at 282 Route 59. It's an office building with proposed drainage changes. It's already been approved, and when they went to I guess do the soil testing, they had to make some drainage changes. So they submitted an amended site plan.
So this one is me also. Yes, so this application was approved by the planning board in April of 2021. It's a commercial building with parking lot. The first floor is retail, and then the second floor was local office. And so they got all their approvals, and when the site plan was originally before the planning board, for whatever reason, we didn't do any soil testing. And it was kind of one of those things that we were talked about that it would happen at construction. And at construction, we did soil testing. Soil testing did not go so well. And in the meantime, the owner has been able to work with the owner of the property behind them to get a drainage easement. The easement has not been filed yet because we want to make sure that everything on our side, on this side, is going ahead, but he has an agreement with the owner for the easement. They haven't filed it because we want to make sure we're filing it for the right location and nothing changes. So we redesigned the drainage. It would go out the back to the property, and there's drainage that was being installed by the owner in the back. There was one version, it's been reviewed by the other engineer, Lankin Tully's office, and then Eve Mancuso had looked at it because and then they decided they thought it should come back to planning for them to see it. So based from that time to now, we actually kind of flip-flopped where the discharge is so that it's only on the property that was the water wheel. I don't know what the owner is listed as now, but it's the water wheels property. But everything else, the building is the same, the parking is the same, everything else is the same except for the drainage.
So John, the question is, does this need to go to planning or can it be considered a field change? You're muted. John, you're muted. Okay.
Sorry about that. Before we go into that, I got a couple of questions on the engineering aspect. So the drainage report was prepared to prove a net zero increase using the underground detention. It's below an acre, well below an acre of site disturbance, so it doesn't need a stormwater permit. So we're okay there. The drainage pipe that's going to go from the underground basins to the adjoining property through an easement, and it shows it on the utility plan into a storm water drainage manhole. Is that existing or proposed?
I think they installed it. I can go out and confirm. And Lou may know, because I know this was something that had been going on a while ago. Lou, do you remember, like, I know they were doing a lot of drainage stuff there, and I think they installed it, but I can confirm.
As far as I know, no drainage fixtures were installed. What they were doing was they had bought the property and then removed all the trees and grubbed all the landscaping off the property, which is causing a runoff issue into the two adjoining properties down the hill from there. So they were taken to court and requested to stabilize the soil with, but as far as I know, they never installed any drainage fixtures.
Okay. All right, so I can go out there, I can confirm, and if not, I will show the next piece of what it is, and if it's not installed prior, then he's gonna have to install the whole thing going out. Because he'll need to have where this discharge, but this did have there was a drainage plan for that Mandarin water wheel property. So, and I knew it was a couple of years ago, so that's why I thought that they did it, but I guess they just. That
was my question, because originally it was like a swale setup that went back to a pond back there on an adjacent property. And I know the owner of the pond had an issue with it, and I don't know how he dealt with that, but I don't think there was any drainage. There's no drainage, anything back there that, as far as I know, ties to anything. I mean, it was above ground swales.
Okay.
So the reason why that's important is because, should the planning board approve or determine that, this is just a field change or however we handle it, you file for building permit, that drainage is never installed. I don't think you can get a building permit without showing a plan that discharges to some sort of existing structure. The easement, that's good and important, but the easement, if it's showing to a future manhole that's not there, pretty much makes you dependent upon the adjoining property owner to get a building permit, because I don't see how Lou could issue a building permit to discharge to a storm drainage system that doesn't exist.
How am I dealing with the Rockland County law that says you can't discharge drainage to an adjoining lot that you don't own? It's zero net runoff. So how are we're basically diverting our runoff to somebody else's property.
Well, in this case, the runoff would be going to the rear in the existing condition because the property slopes to the back.
Mm-hmm.
So you can still discharge in that direction as long as it's not more than the existing condition, because it's a zero increase. It's not zero runoff.
So what we're discharging basically is the overflow from the retention port.
Yeah. So it's like we're holding it and then we're slowly releasing it.
Okay.
So right now, all the water is sheet flowing across the property to the back. Now we would hold it and slowly get it out to the back.
Okay.
And so it's not that it's not allowed to go onto your neighbor's property. You just are like slowing it down so that it's not more and faster.
Yeah,
But if it goes there now,
yeah, if under existing conditions, it was draining someplace else and they were proposing to redirect it onto an adjoiner's lot, I think that would be a different scenario. It's going there now. Under existing conditions, so they're going to detain it to keep it to pre-development levels.
okay, so I can confirm the offsite drainage, the status of all that, and I can find out if that hasn't been installed, what the full plan was, and if they need to extend this easement to cover the whole thing so they can build the whole thing, then then that would be the next piece.
You're no longer cutting across the lumberyard property now, right? You
No,
moved-
it's this is only on the water wheel parcel.
Got it.
Yes. Yeah, Dykes is out of the picture, not on Dykes property, at all.
So I think that talks about the engineering issues. So with regards to planning, I mean, if this has in fact gone through the planning process, and this is nothing more than going from infiltration to a piped system to the closest drainage facility, I am of the opinion that this would be a type 2 action under seeker and would not require a full seeker review. Whether I don't think a public hearing is required, but whether or not planning board approval is required, I don't know legally what that issue is. But again, I'm assuming that everything on the site plan has been previously reviewed and approved by the planning board.
Yes, nothing else has changed. It's only the drainage.
And John, in your letter, we do have a stormwater agreement and escrow that was already put in place when this was approved,
Okay.
as well as inspection fees. It's all been accounted for.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure it didn't.
No, I know. So would this need to go to planning, or would this then be a field change, or you have to wait to hear from from Rachel?
I want to hear back from Rachel because I just want to make sure that we're not discharging to a future drainage system that may or may never get built. So that's my biggest concern.
Also like to find out from Lincoln, Tully and Eve is if now they're not going across two lots into one, they're going straight across one lot. And what the if they would still believe it would be a planning board issue, or we could do a field change.
Okay.
Are
Yeah,
you going
we
to them, or am I
definitely-
going to them?
I just flip-flopped so that the discharge would be on the opposite side of the system so that it stays on just the water wheel property. Because they've been meeting with that particular owner, and Dykes is a harder entity because it's a bigger thing, whereas the water wheel properties owner is just one local businessman, so there's somebody that they can deal with directly, and they have been. All right, so I'm gonna try to get out there today, walk it myself, and I'll let you know what I find out and follow up with them and where everything stands offsite.
Okay.
And is it okay if I send an email to everybody with what I find? Okay.
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay.
And I'll want to take a look, either I or Rob, and I'm looking at it now to figure out which of the actions, like there are enumerated type 2 actions, and I want to make sure that the plan falls under one of those enumerated actions so we don't run into future problems.
Okay, I mean, I know that there was a seeker review done with the original
Mhm.
plan and everything. That was all part of the original site plan. So yeah, this is only a drainage change. But the building, the parking, all of that is the same. The use is the same. The intensity of the use is the same. So all of that
I
is
could-
we're still
I could s- yeah.
mitigating the drainage.
I see several places where it could, several type 2 where it could apply. I just don't know without know right yet.
Okay.
Also,
Any
for
action?
information, they currently do not have a building permit on this property.
I can't hear you. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's hard to hear you.
Information, they do not have a building permit on this property.
For 282 does not have a building permit?
It was not, it was never issued because of the issues with the drainage.
Okay.
And currently have a violation for clearing the lot without a building permit.
So they never submitted for a permit to clear the lot, is what you're saying.
Correct. Well, they never got, that would be part of the building permit.
Oh, it is. Okay.
Yeah, I would have been happy with the building permit being actually completed and then they could have cleared the lot, but they cleared the lot prior to even submitting for a building permit.
Okay.
Okay.
Which also enhances the drainage issues.
All right. So Rachel, I guess when we hear from you,
Yeah, I'm gonna try to visit the site this afternoon and walk it. I mean, it's just up the street. And then I can get more information. I may have to talk to the water wheel owner and see, what their status is and what's been going on that. But I will be in touch.
okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, our next application is Viola Water, New York, the former Suez for the Tallman Water Well, number 26, Fast at Route 239, Route 59, for the amended site plan and special permit. This is for chairman's endorsement. They had gotten the approval from the planning board. And let's see, the revised cost estimate was, the estimate was submitted, revised as per the village engineer's requirements. And the only question that's outstanding, and I will leave that to John, Chris, and Lou, is about the stormwater agreement. As to whether, one, is it required, and if it is required, which I think it is, what the fee would be, because there was a discussion whether or not there should even be a fee, but I think if you're doing an agreement, you have to put something. And I think that was the discussion Lou had and John and Chris. I don't know if you talked to Rob about it, but he did send us an email.
I did not. I'm going to look at that email now.
Okay.
So.
This one. Okay.
Interject, the stormwater agreement was prepared.
Right.
And so I don't know if it was executed or not, but the question became, well, it is a very, very, probably the smallest, pretty much, treatment basin that I've ever seen. It's a very, very tiny piece of property. So the site disturbance, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it's even less than 1/10 of an acre. So the question was, do we, because in the stormwater agreement, you agree that an engineer will come out and evaluate it, make sure it's working properly. Is it necessary to, on top of that, have the village engineer come out on a yearly basis, like you would for a 2 or 3 or 4 acre new parking lot and stormwater ponds, etc.? So, we're of the opinion that that's really not necessary because it's such a small disturbance that your engineer going out and okaying it would be satisfactory to us. So however, if the village feels that there needs to be some sort of number in there to have somebody go out and inspect it from the village, then they have the prerogative to do that. The only comment that I had is just a reminder that a floodplain permit is required before a building permit can be granted. But all the other comments that we raised have been addressed.
Lou, did you want to say something?
Just the stormwater agreement, the dollar amount is just for, in case their engineer doesn't go out and inspect it, we could have somebody else go out and
Okay.
verify that the work is actually being done. So it's basically an escrow. It hangs out there in perpetuity for the length of the stormwater agreement. And in case they don't go out and check it, and there's issues later on, 3-4 years down the road where it hasn't been checked, we can have our engineer go out and check it, and we get reimbursed for it.
Okay.
What's the cost for having an engineer, your engineer go out and check it?
I think we've been using a number of 500 per year, so that includes time to go out, look at it, check it against the plans, write any deficiencies in a letter form and send it. So,
But since we're not expecting that there will be any yearly inspections, perhaps 500 works as the amount
I
to keep
mean,
an escrow for the.
We could leave it as a $500 escrow in there.
Mhm.
And then if for the first couple of years they don't inspect it, we could, do something about it at that point.
And it's just gonna be dickered into the agreement.
So, I mean, they prepared the agreement. The only thing that's missing is the escrow. And then once we decide what that amount is, they will have it signed and notarized, send it to me for the mayor to sign and notarize, and I give it
Mhm.
back for the recording. So I'm leaving it to you all as the professionals to advise what that number should be.
I would say 500 for the escrow, and if there is a storm management plan required, $1. Because I think that I'm looking at Rob's email.
Okay, I don't have it up, but he
He
does.
says, "Hi, Suzanne. In addition to the escrow provisions, the agreement contains the promises of the property owner to construct and maintain the drainage facilities." So I think the agreement is needed, and that's the stormwater management agreement.
Right.
But given that it seems that the $500 escrow for the for any engineer to come out, if they don't handle it themselves, then the de minimis number can be put in the stormwater management agreement.
Okay.
Am I way off base here? Because you seem
No,
very
no,
confused.
I just don't know what number to put in.
I think 500 would be sufficient. That will allow us to go out.
Okay.
If their engineer doesn't, we can go out
Mhm.
after 2 years, and if we see any deficiencies, we'll note them, and, hopefully they'll be corrected. It is such a small system. It really is, it doesn't warrant yearly inspections over the period of 10 years like it would a 2 or
Mhm.
3 or 4 acre site development. So
Mhm.
that's my opinion. So
And
500 would
it-
be sufficient.
Yeah, and their engineers are very diligent on top
Mm-hmm.
of everything, always hand everything in. I don't see a concern personally.
Okay.
So, and Suzanne, what I was saying is that it looks like Rob has suggested that there's a separate stormwater management agreement and an escrow that both happen. I was suggesting putting the $500 in the escrow in case we need to send an engineer in. A stormwater agreement is a contract, and you can't have a contract without consideration. So that's why I was suggesting just a de minimis amount of $1 for the stormwater management
Okay,
agreement.
but we have one agreement that's got both in it. That's why I'm confused.
Got it. I didn't see that.
That's why
Understood
I'm
now.
very
Then
confused.
$500 is fine. Just
Okay,
ignore my
that's okay.
$1 comment, because it was just to make sure we didn't have a contract without consideration.
Oh,
which is
okay, all right.
enforceable. Yeah.
He might have thought some villages might do two, or towns might do two separate.
Yeah. If it's one,
Okay.
then $500 in escrow is perfect.
Yeah, and it's
That explains your
10-year
confusion. Okay,
agreement.
got it.
Okay, got it. All right. So it's 500, Will and Ryan. Okay,
Thank you.
so that's really everything, unless anybody else has any comments.
Can I just ask the one question about the floodplain permit? We submitted that previously on the original application. I believe it was sent to the building department. Suzanne, do you need a new revised floodplain development permit application, or does that one still, is that valid?
I would have it in the file, Lou. It's basically the application with the check off of floodplain, and they paid the fee.
Okay,
So I could just give you a copy from the
that's
previous.
fine. I haven't seen it, so hopefully
All
my
right.
file is somewhere.
Yeah, I'll make sure that you and Tahilia have another copy.
Thank you.
But you didn't have to repay the fee because it was previously paid and just never finalized. And I'll make sure he has it. And the only thing that I would need then is just to have 7 sets, so I can have the chairman, so I stamp them will have them, the chairman sign, but I also need the owner of the lot to sign. So when I stamp it, I mean, if you have someone bring them, I could stamp them in front of them, just write the date of the resolution on there. They can take them to get them signed. And when you bring them back, all 7 signed, I can then have the chairman come and disperse them and either send you or give to someone your set. If you want more than one endorsed set for yourselves, you know, like if Suburban wants one and Viola wants one, if O&R, then I need more than 7, whatever that number is, but you will get one. But I give it to, you know, the town of Rampo, 911, the village engineer, building, my file, etc. So that will depend on how many you would like. Okay.
Very good.
All right. So if there's nothing else, I guess that's the conclusion of CDRC for today. Okay, thank you, everyone.
Have a
Thanks.
good day.
Thank
Have
you.
a good
Take care.
holiday.
Good day.
All right,
Have a good
take
holiday.
care.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. All right, bye-bye.